Hello again. Welcome to MissouriNet.com. I'm Bill Pollock as we get ready for Mizzou and Arkansas State this weekend. Joining me, my guest from KMIZ-TV Columbia is Austin Kim. Austin, nice to have you back on as we ease into week 2 of the college football season. What were your initial thoughts after you saw the Missouri Tigers against SEMO?
I thought they answered some questions, which I think was a big key for them, especially at wide receiver and defensive line. I thought on a wide receiver, you saw immediately Maty Mauk and his receivers were on the same page. He was able to find Jamon Moore and Nate Brown in the end zone in the first quarter very, very quickly. They were trying to get the tight end involved, which was encouraging. So you saw a couple of passes to Sean Culkin. Keon DeLosa was involved in the pass game. So I think it's certainly safe to say that this receiver group is very, very talented. However, on the defensive line, I think it took a while for them to get going in terms of getting that pass rush down. I know Charles Harris was there for the strip that I got the fumble recovery by Ian Simon. You saw Nate Howard and Terry Beckner Jr. come alive in the second half, and they were just incredibly effective. I was really impressed with Nate Howard. I've been a big fan of his since that first scrimmage during training camp. I really liked what he did. I thought he was doing some really good things. He has this incredible jump that I think Tiger fans will really love. I think you can, if you're at a game or you're watching him on TV, look out for number 88. Not to say Terry Beckner Jr. isn't very talented. He did a great job. You saw why there was so much hype around him in the offseason and during his recruitment. But I really think he's something else. And my gosh, why aren't we talking about Kentrell Brothers? I mean, he had 16 tackles. I think that's the 4th most in a single game by a time.
Waiting for Austin to reconnect with us. Yeah, he was talking about Kentrell Brothers, 16 tackles. That was a career high. Go ahead. We got you back, Austin?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry about that. Yeah, career high 16 tackles for Kentrell Brothers. I thought he was outstanding. And as I was saying before we got cut off, I think he not only opened up eyes in the SEC, but opened up eyes to some NFL scouts.
Yeah, and here's what I saw from the defense. They looked very fundamentally sound. They didn't look like there were any broken plays. They were around the ball, and you can say, okay, it's a lesser opponent, but you still have to be in position to make those plays. And Missouri was solid throughout the whole game, and they got a lot of different players in there. I was very encouraged by what I saw from the defense. Offensively, I thought Maty Mauk did a good job. Obviously, I'm sure we'll at some point in this hangout here talk about Drew Lock. I thought the passing game, though, looked real solid. I've got some concerns with the run game, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that they didn't have Russell Hansbrough in there, and then Evan Boehm was out. So you're kind of mixing and matching on that offensive line in the first game, and it certainly showed. To me, that was the weakest part of the game was the offensive line. Would you agree?
I think it was the offensive line, but I still think the running backs could have done a better job of finding their holes when there were some holes. Yeah, the offensive line does need to improve. I don't think it's safe to say it's a concern yet. I think it's something to keep an eye on. But, keep in mind, Evan Boehm did not play for a half, and Alec Ablin had to switch over from left guard to center, which he had been taking reps in. So, that was less of a concern for me. You weren't totally throwing someone in a new position. You weren't making Connor McGovern go at center. Let's put it that way. It wasn't that extreme. But, I think they certainly need to improve, especially on that right side with Mitch Hall and Nate Crawford, just trying to get on the same page. Alec Ablin has the benefit of the doubt because he's next to Connor McGovern and Evan Boehm, and he's beat out a starter and Taylor Chappell and Brad McNulty at that left guard spot. So clearly the guy has talent. He'll get on the same page. He'll be very experienced by the time this season's done. There weren't too many false start penalties. I think Missouri total was, penalized 5 or 6 times during that SEMO game. A little high for what you want in a game, but still not something that we haven't seen before with this Mizzou team. I think over time that offensive line gets better, to be quite honest.
I agree with you on that. Arkansas State, I don't know if you saw much of their game against USC. They put up 400 yards of offense. They turned the ball over. They got blown out. But, I looked at their defense. Their defense came up, I think, with 4 or 5 sacks. They put a lot of pressure on Kessler. It seemed to me like they made big plays. USC made big plays after the catch. They were well covered. They'd get open. Plays that you expect Missouri to make or somebody a little bit better, they were just slipping away. This Arkansas State team concerns me. I expect Mizzou to be focused, but I think a lot of fans just kind of looked at this game on the schedule and kind of checked them off. But a couple of years ago, this team gave Missouri quite a run in Columbia. How difficult will this be for the Tigers going down to Jonesboro?
I think it'll be very difficult, and that's not a slight at Missouri. I just think that Arkansas State, like you said, Bill, is a very good team. Yeah, they have 400 yards of offense against the number, I guess a top 10 ranked team in the country and a powerhouse at USC. And to put up numbers like that, considering there's such a David and Goliath complex in that game, I think that's very impressive. And Coach Anderson down there has just done a fantastic job. As with the last 4 or 5 coaches, my goodness. I mean, it seems like that's the big stepping stone in college football. They're doing something right down there in Jonesboro. And the fact that it's on the road, the fact that this is a very balanced team, it's certainly not at the caliber of Missouri. I think, 2 touchdowns is about right, but I also think I would not be surprised if Mizzou only wins by 10 or even a touchdown, because there's so much youth on that Mizzou team in a lot of key spots, defensive line, offensive line, and at receiver. Again, this Mizzou team proved it had talent against SEMO, but I think maturity, that's an entirely different question. And I don't even know if you're going to find that out until you're well into SEC play with this Mizzou team. Arkansas State's definitely going to give Mizzou some fits on Saturday.
All right, I want to talk about one more thing, and this is something that's kind of irked me. It's nice to see what Drew Lock did in his first game. We certainly saw him in the scrimmages. I'm seeing from – and this is not just local media. I'm seeing it regionally too. The word quarterback controversy coming up. I don't believe this is a controversy at all. I think this is just an opportunity to get Drew Lock some looks. Now, there might be a battle next year for the starting job, but as far as I'm concerned, this is Maty Mauk's job, and he's done nothing to show me that there should be a controversy at all and that there should be any consideration for Drew Lock starting. What is your take on this? Is controversy, is that just people trying to drum up some interest? They're just using the wrong word, I think. But I want to get somebody else's thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think locally, I think even the average Missouri fan in Columbia and even mid-Missouri knows what the deal is. I think they've just been surrounded by Mizzou so much, or they just know better. They're listening to smart people like you, Bill. And also, I also believe that I think there's some people in Kansas City and St. Louis kind of catching on, especially those writers over there. Ben Fredrickson, my dear friend over at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, he wrote a nice column about, Maty Lock or Matlock, whatever we want to call it, and how it's a tandem, which I think is a great word. Maty, I think, is definitely still the starting quarterback. He will be unless he gets hurt. But I think if everyone knows that Drew's going to get some series, and he may get more series than we've seen from a backup quarterback in the past, I think that's smart on Gary Pinkel. Normally when you see 2 quarterback systems on paper, you're just thinking, oh goodness, coach doesn't know what he's doing. Well, quite frankly, he does. It's just that we haven't really paid attention to it. But when it comes back to Blaine Gabbert and Chase Daniel, Blaine Gabbert and James Franklin, and even a little bit of James Franklin and Maty Mauk, they have been doing this. This is the first time where we've seen that gap kind of closed a bit between backup and starter. I think that's why we're seeing so many people clamoring for Drew Lock in 2015. It's not going to happen just, from a trust standpoint with Maty Mauk and that coaching staff. And you know what? It's a politics thing. I'm not going to shy from it, because if you are a coach, can you look your most experienced quarterback in the eye who's given you 2 straight SEC East title? Can you tell him, hey, we're going to give you we're going to sit you down for a very long time to give this kid who's had 30 practices under his belt? I can't see that happening. It's just not smart from a coaching perspective.
No, I agree with you 100% on that. Now, Drew Lock certainly has a lot of talent, and the potential is there for him to do some great things. But this is Maty Mauk's team. I can't tell you how many people, Austin, come up to me and they say, oh, well, how long is it going to be before Locke is in the lineup? And it's like, not this year. I mean, unless there's an injury. I mean, this is a very controlled – Gary Pinkel knows what we do. This is very controlled. And if you want any more evidence, I would go back to the Cotton Bowl game when James Franklin was just struggling mightily against the Cowboys. And Maty Mauk came in for his one series, and he led them down to, I believe it was a touchdown. I think he threw a beautiful touchdown pass. I can't remember who caught it. And
Marcus Lucas.
Yeah, Marcus. Yeah, okay, very good. Great memory. And you would say, come on, put Mauk in. You got to spark this up. And he didn't change. So he's not going to make a knee-jerk reaction 2-3 weeks into the season.
Well, what I love is, I think they're starting. I was talking to Andy Hill about this. I said, how do you plan how much you're going to use one person or the other? And they come in and say, okay, someone's going to get a series here or there, and it just depends on how the game goes. If Maty's doing super well, they're not going to change anything. But if they see opportunities where they feel like Drew can exploit the defense in certain ways, they might bring him in for an extra series or two. So there is a certain plan in place, but at the same time, there's also some room for improvisation, which I think is a very smart thing to do. You just can't come in and not be able to make in-game adjustments. I think Drew has certainly shown he might be, the next. He has the potential to be that next great quarterback, perhaps even the best quarterback since Chase Daniel was in Columbia. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's hop off the Drew Lock hype train for a little bit. Maty does show his struggles, but Maty does a lot of great things that Drew can't do, and that I think tandem is the right word again, because Maty, I think, is a stronger runner than Drew is. Drew can clearly throw the ball downfield. He's very, very accurate. I think he's much more of a thrower than Maty is. However, when you consider the experience that Maty has, and I think he's starting to get away, he's getting better with his footwork. You want to take someone who's just a better decision maker when it comes to the quarterback controversy or whatever you guys want to, what sort of picture you guys want to paint. One thing I will also say too, Drew Lock has also not faced a lot of pressure on these throws.
Yeah.
You look at the protection they've been in; it's been incredible. Simo hasn't gotten anywhere.
And he took a sack, and he said that's one thing that Drew said was, I've got to work on getting rid of the ball quicker. That's the biggest adjustment coming from high school to college, is you don't have a lot of time to throw the football. So, I mean, he took a sack to Simo. But, yeah, Austin, you're absolutely right that you have you've got to face some of that pressure, some of that SEC defense pressure. And it'll be interesting to see, because I'm telling you, Arkansas State, they're pretty deep on their defensive line, and they can bring the pressure as well. We saw that against USC. So we'll see how Drew Lock can handle that this weekend in the series or two, or maybe more that he gets. So looks like Austin froze up. That's a good point to cut off. Thanks for watching us. Continuing coverage at MissouriNet.com. For Austin Kim, the frozen picture there, yeah, we lost him. We got enough out of him, though. Guy knows his stuff. Check him out on KMIZ-TV. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.